The line in your design gives the eye a clear path to follow through it. Long, thin line materials such as flax create movement which the eyes follow. But look at this, the effect can be exciting and dramatic. Or slow and gentle. Gentle curves give elegance, while vertical lines reflect slowness. A row of things can also become a line. The direction of the flow gives the design movement and rhythm. And here it is, a diagonal line which creates more tension. Have a go.
So my first design is going to be illustrating the element of line. As you can see, I have a tall rectangle container, and I don't need to fill that up. I have a plastic bottle that comes to about here. You can put water or sand to weight it, but the most important thing is it has a handle on it. It's a milk bottle, and if I wanted to have something to actually tie my piece of wood to for extra strength, I've got that hidden handle down there that could be very handy.
So you would loop the wire around the handle and bring it up, so you've got two prongs at the top, ready to wind it around the clear base.
And the weight of the water or the sand in the container keeps it safe. And I've used one of these curtains. They're used for pleated curtains, but anyone could make one out of a strong wire to actually anchor that. So all there is holding that is one. Now this is skeletonized panga, New Zealand plant material. It's naturally black. You often find some on the beach, sometimes better skeletonized than other, but I've become adept at making it how I would like it, and have done masses of it over the years. But it's natural, and if you need to enhance it, if it's got some patchy bits, black nugget is the best thing. Excuse me. This is New Zealand flax. This is tricolour. It's actually got 3 colours. One of the most versatile ones, I find. I've got to slip that. Never mind. Now the best thing about wood, or panga, and some other things, it has natural hold. Always make use of those if you can. Why wire something up if you've got a natural hold to hold it?
You made it look so easy.
Oh well, I'm well practiced with flax. Formium is its botanical name, and tricolour, oh look at that one, there's a blemish on it. Now I'll just put another one to make. Sometimes it's a nuisance to have a turntable that makes it go a bit too fast or whatever. One thing about flax, if you put it in and you're trying to roll it or angle it in some way, quite often if you get this end where you want it, you can take out the other end and reposition it to get a better flow. I think I'll leave that, it just helps to guide us up to the point there. Sometimes if it's just not quite the right shape or length or whatever, very easy to you can't do that with too many things, but flax is very accommodating in that way. Now I won't put much more of that in, I'll just put a wee bit. You can hear the tuis in the background. New Zealand native bird.
What are you thinking as far as making where you're going to put it, Benny? How's you position it?
Well, one thing I don't do is practice, which is sometimes not such a good idea, of course. But I think what do you call it? Just doing it off the cuff, as it were, leads to more interesting, perhaps, play. I often use staples, and at times it's not the best, but.
And that's just a piece of wire you've used like a staple?
Yes. I didn't get that down. Now, I'm going to put in some leaves. I've only got 4 materials in this design. These are Fat's Hedera, which is a very easy plant to grow. It's a cross between ivy, which is the Hedera, and Fatsia radiata. If you're doing a diagonal design, one thing you don't do is trail something down. You try and have everything as much as possible going on the diagonal line. Put some flowers. I have the panga is obviously holy, as in it's not a solid form. The leaves are fairly solid. The flowers are probably could be considered spiky. That one's mind if it's own. It needs to go this way. One or two more and we'll be there. It's a lilium, but I can't tell you which one it is. Quite a common one. Very much a garden plant in New Zealand, but I couldn't tell you its name. Now I think I'll leave it at that. Just put one at the back. Which isn't. Well, its diagonal line, probably the simplest form to do, the easiest to illustrate. It's what sets the outward shape of our design. And if we ask for a line design, or for whatever reason we're doing a line design, so we're doing our design, an interesting design, but we're enhancing our line. We're not taking over and making a big posy. In fact, that's probably the maximum I would go with height and so forth. So here's my illustration of a diagonal line design.
Colours are emotional. Whatever colours you choose for your design will convey a message. Soft pastels seem feminine. Strong contrasts are bold and attention-seeking. Colour harmonies. They are set guides which will give you great combinations every time. They have names such as complementary colours, analogous, monochromatic and lots more. Use ideas from nature to get more combinations. Use the same proportions as you'll find in a single flower and you won't go wrong. Nature is your best teacher. Strong contrasts of colours where you're using pure hues will give you full intensity and this sort of an effect. While staying on one side of the colour wheel, such as yellow, oranges and reds, will create a design that is much more harmonious. It's all a matter of taste.
These are two dried bangalow sprays. I have bangalows, several in my garden, and these are quite smallish. They can get monstrous with an older tree. Now I wired only where I had to, the two spades together. I only had the two left. I had a clean out, so which is a good thing to do now and again when you've had lots of things for a long time. And I've wired on two small cages. These are made in New Zealand. I don't know whether I have them elsewhere. And floral foam in both. It's very hard to get away from floral foam. It has allowed us to do things we could never have done before, getting up onto positions and places and awkward spots that no way you could just do it with moss or a container of water. Now, I'm using some variegated aspidistra here. Again, it's from my garden. Even the ordinary green one throws these leaves all the time. Very useful, very attractive, fit into many situations. Colour. Now, this design is the one I've based on colour. As you can imagine, these give great colour. Also, the stripes on the leaves help give us our movement. And obviously this is a horizontal type, not a true horizontal type design. So I don't want to go up all over the place. I like to use little wire pins if I can because they're almost unseen, better than the bigger purchased ones. One more. It's just this is the front. I'm just doing some to enhance the line, strengthen the line where we're going, and to encase my cage a little. Now, let's see, some of these are drops in. That's a good one. Beautiful big tubers.
Tubers don't mind foam.
Well, I don't know that they actually... Well, it depends. I notice that they're growing much better ones now. These very thick stemmed ones are wonderful. Two of them.
They're huge, aren't they?
Yes. And they're too thick to put the covers on to help support it, but they're also very good lasting. The only thing is when you buy them you don't know how long they've been around. Now because this one's a little broken, I'll have to do a trick. Most of my, or at least all of my designs today will be viewed from one side. Just look at the thickness of that stem. It can even be a problem to get in. Now, I'm just going to do a little finishing off here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 plant materials again. If you're doing a modern design, the less you can use, the less varieties of plant material, with the biggest contrast, you get the most impact. This is just the fibre from the fan palm, but it belongs to this. So, in a way, it's just part of and parcel of what I'm using, so it fits in, as it were. One more piece to put in and we'll be there. Barely need it actually, but it helps to disguise this flower with the missing petals. I shouldn't be telling you that, should I? An umbrella effect. Just gives a little height to this design. It takes off the flatness of being a true horizontal. There we are. Now, so there's my presentation of her. And I've used colour. Now, orange, as you will know, is brown is orange. So that's why I have used the brown and orange together.
Rough beside smooth, shiny beside dull, busy beside plain, fine beside coarse. Do you get it? contrasting textures will make your design interesting. If a surface is shiny or smooth, you will look at it and pass on quickly, but add a bit of rough or a dull surface beside it and the eye stops. Your design has become more dynamic. Even if you only use 2 or 3 forms, if their textures contrast, it will work. Extreme contrast of texture and form, in this case, can be very expressive and produce a strong design. And you don't even need to vary the colour if you have got fantastic texture.
This design is going to be all green in a pot, of course, and I'm going to concentrate on textures and what it does, putting certain textures next to one another. Now,
Betty, this is actually what you've also done in your garden, isn't it? Concentrated on putting textures.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very much. What you put next to one another in gardens that can double the impact or the visual pleasure, if you like, from certain things. Now, I'll just put in a wee bit of line. This is going to be a modern mass also. I haven't labelled them all, but in style you would call it a modern mass. Now the aspidistras, these two, I've actually put 2 together and a staple near the top, and then you get the 2 stems and you twist them. I didn't do it in front of you because you could spend a quarter of an hour getting them right. But it's so simple and it's a matter of practice. And the first time you do it you'll think, oh, I can't get it to look anything. It's just playing around. And by doing this you get spaces. Visual spaces are very interesting. Much better than a solid wall of something. But it's the spaces that give it lightness in one way, but give it interest and weight in another. Okay, this is Virginia, one of the easiest plants to grow. It's not a long-lasting plant material, but like all things, you need to pick it mature. What have I got in the bottom? Some old oasis to about halfway, and a big pin holder. I can't wire it onto my pot, or it anchors, so then I cut my floral foam to shape, and it goes down over the pin holder, which acts as a weight. And it's also a good idea to put some skewers crosswise when you've got pieces to join them together. I haven't today because it's fairly tight in there. I've just laid a little piece of very fine netting over the top. Now the netting isn't to hold your floral foam together, it's to support your plant material, support the weight of your stems. So I've got a grouping of Virginia leaves there. If something flops and needs a little help, you just put a stay underneath. You call that a prop. I'm sure we all did at times. Now my pot is, I feel as if my leaves are a little bit big. My pot is fairly substantial, but these are actually, this isn't a good thing to do, but for the purpose of time, it's an illustration. So just reduce those two a little and that looks a lot better. Now, so there's my grouping. By turning that one over, not only raises it a bit, but it brings in the other side, the other colour. just carry this line material down. Right, so I'm just getting some organisation to my leaves there. It's just a little wobbly there, but it'll come right. Now, these are eucalyptus, pineapple lily, pineapple plant. They've got the resemblance to a pineapple on the end. Getting to the end of their season, but they do have some nice, interesting movement. Modern mass, groupings of many kinds of plant material, and not just one or two of them unless it was something absolutely striking. And we're also working on textures here. As you can see already, I've got two plain, or one relatively smooth. Look at the visual change straight off. Now, this is a hydrangea. It was a white one. And of course they're all going off at this time of the year. Now, each grouping of plant material we put in needs to be at a different height. If they were all the same height or similar height, it would just be a ups and downs there of no great interest. Now, this is another philodendron, Philodendron Xanadu. In a very warm garden, they make a lovely evergreen plant. Very good for picking and keep for a very long time. So, very good, useful for lots of things. You don't always have to use leaves the way they grow. Either sometimes they've got a very interesting back on them, reverse side, or as in the likes of these, they've got just that bend that are very nice to stand upwards like this. Now, we're talking about textures here. If we look at this, we've got relatively smooth and a little bit of shine. Not quite so smooth, but very veined. We've got very rough texture in these flowers. Here we have relatively smooth leaf, but it's got a very interesting shape. The hydrangea, of course, is very lumpy, so another texture again. So if these were all similar materials, they wouldn't have anywhere near the impact of putting totally different textures together. Though it's a massive groupings, we still don't really want it to absolutely be tightly packed together. I have Caprosma here, another New Zealand plant. beautiful garden plants. They've got high natural shine, and there's many variations from green through yellows, combination of green and yellows. And this one sort of throws off the sport. This is Silver Queen. They won't take frost, so they do better in the warmer regions. Now, let's see where we're going. Just about there. Just put a few of these in the back to finish off. This is an Andina. It's interesting at all times of the year. Beautiful in the colder regions where they have frosts. It's brilliant reed in the winter, but it goes through several stages over the year. It's useful at any time. If you need to fill up or got a gap or whatever, use some more of the same of something, not go into something totally different. Now the aim here is also to try and make your groupings run through one another at times. I'd like to see this a bit higher. There's just one other thing I'd like to do. I've stripped some plain green flax. Now I could use it in a roll like that over it, or I could leave it to go loose. I think perhaps I might tie it and have control of it. Have a look in a sec. It just gives that softening bit. I'm very fond of flax, New Zealand Formium. So what I'll do is just wire it to a little stick. I just stripped it with my fingernail. You can strip it with a pin holder, but I find it makes it very fluffy, which is attractive for a short while, and it goes off very quick.
The three-dimensional look of a flower leaf is its form. When you contrast forms in a design, it's more interesting. In Ikebana designs, mass, which is sphere-like or closely bunched, is usually placed with the line, branches and things. These are called points and spikes in Western design. Circular flowers and foliage are points, and they draw attention to themselves. They also visually stabilise. Spikes such as gladiole flowers, strelitzia leaves lead the eye to an end and helps give movement to a design. There are many stages in between, and they add harmony and softness. If you use all rounds or all spikes, your design can look monotonous, and that is why you will often see line material placed over the top and around groupings of rounds. Can you see how the lines give this design so much more energy? Contrasts of forms are something to think about as you select your plant material, but also remember you can place the points so they don't all face the front. This way the same form can still provide an interesting contrast. It's easy, just don't put all your flowers facing the same way. Large points such as these cut palm leaves attract more attention than smaller points such as the roses and the chrysanthemums, but they all act as stabilizers when there's a lot of movement into the design caused by that line material going vertical. Clear edge bold forms such as these anthuriums, capsicums, aralias, strelitzia leaves and rolled leaves make crisp, clean, formal linear designs. So have a go with Betty.
Just do a wee recap. All the elements come into every design we do. Even if we have a design that only has 3 materials, but they don't all have to be in everything. So for today's purposes, I'm just trying to concentrate on a few of them. Now this design, I've had this red plate for a while and I'm very fond of it. It's actually made of bamboo. It's very light. But forms is what it's all about. So I will try and illustrate the forms where I can. Mechanics. A piece of oasis, and because it's a shiny bowl, I have it sitting on a heavy piece of fabric just so it doesn't scratch the netting. And then the floral foam inside. The biggest thing with people starting floral work, they have far too big a piece of floral foam and they just don't know what to do with it when they get to a certain point because they can see half of it. It's learning what's enough and not too much, and not just stuffing it or covering with something for the sake of it. Right, so that's why I've got a long piece to get out a bit. Generally speaking, this type of design is done in an elongated container, but I'm going to try and be a bit different today. Now I've got small netting, so that gives more support. These are strelitzia leaves, they grow well here. I've chosen small ones. Most of my things are quite big. Mainly because I look after them and feed them too well. That's what's happening to me too. Now, foxtail asparagus. It's absolutely lovely for its colour. Usually we can get some nice bendy ones or some with some interesting tops on it, but not at the moment. It's one of those things, here again, if you feed it well, it will reward you.
What do you feed them with, Betty?
Anything and everything. I better not do that, had I? Looks a bit...
That's why you're doing it in the garden.
Well, I can get away with it if you say that. I might put a smaller one. Hypericum. It's the berries that form after the flowers. I think it has yellow flowers. Just a change of form. Which brings me to another point. We have long linear type, although it's tubular as well, and it's very rough textured. So it's tall, linear means long and slim, but it's really quite tubular, as I said. This is, quite bitsy. The strelitzia leaves. What form? Well, they've got quite some bulk to them, but they've got no volume, as in they're just two-dimensional, whereas this is three-dimensional. Not very often would I leave small leaves on plant material. But I fear if I took all the leaves off this, it'd be very sparse, especially against the other materials I'm using. fatsier leaves. Now we've been talking about textures and things. Contrast, though it's not in the elements, is one of the biggest things. Contrast in form and texture and colour, everything. So even when I'm doing this, I'm thinking, what will I put next to that? Now I've put that leaf because it's palm shaped, whereas these are very direct and straight. So we've got contrast of form there. Often we trim them, and I usually tell anyone I'm doing some floral work with that trim our fatsier around to make them stumpy, to make them more definite. Think of modern, traditional work, everything's tapered and graduated in colour and form out to the edges. Modern work, we're there to make it show, not necessarily show, it's for us to catch the eye. So therefore we have to be a little blunt to do that sometimes. We don't want, here again, we don't want everything the same length. This is a prop, just like when you're working in the theatre. You have plenty of props. I've done a wee bit, so.
So it's just a little stalk that you pop in there to help it?
Yes, it's only small netting. Sometimes you can even take it out afterwards because something else will support it.
But you could also wire it to that prop, couldn't you? Yeah.
Now you'll see I've got two much the same length. I've got a grouping here. I could even put another leaf, I think, on the side there to bulk it up. Whoops, shouldn't bang my scissors.
There's also a strong line element, Betty, isn't there?
Yes, yes. When Greg Orlush first came, I was lucky enough to go to, I've been to a couple of his workshops earlier on, and we had to break a lot of rules. We were so used to a centre of interest and other points, numbers being one thing or graduated in some things, that this brought in different placements altogether. Groupings, yes, and they were all doing something and balancing up the size. It's the different materials each side that make it far more interesting. Breaking away from that centre of interest was the centre is the biggest thing, and I tell students and I tell everyone I'm judging or whatever, forget about middles. Forget about the middle, because that's the one thing that people starting off are inclined to do. Put something in the middle. Just forget about the middle. Start to one side or the other, but just forget about a middle. That's the biggest thing. But by the same token, the overall balance, you can't have a great big heavy side there and a wispy one here. Your eye just tells you, you know, something wrong there. She's got a problem on that side. So, right, now I've got to think of some different heights. Blue hydrangea. Though I don't have blue in here, and these are only just got a touch of blue-green, so has the strelitzia leaves. They're a bluish green. So I thought, well, I can put a bit of blue in here too. Now I didn't put it on the other side because it's too, this texture is too similar. I couldn't get these any longer, that just happened to be the length they were. Little monstera leaves. You either got little ones or you got monsters. Now if you're putting sticks into something, one will just be a wobbly. It'll do a wobbly. So you need at least two. I've just popped 2 succulents in there. Good base material. I'd just like a little red on this other side, and it really does need some more red. But not as much. The thing is, it brings the red down to there. Now, I've got two leaves of this. It's a cordyline, but a very tropical, fancy one. Some people would be horrified at my rusty pins.
They work.
Well, they've got more gripping power and they're less noticeable. So why not use them?
And it's recycling.
Well, it's one of the things that I usually do keep. And I just need to put something green in the middle there now. You're looking at the back there at the moment.
Using the same plant material, the same way, several times, makes a pattern. By doing this, patterning can be used to create lines within a larger design, and it gives it wonderful movement and energy. Being aware of the light and shadows will make the edges of interacting patterns even more interesting. And because you don't want your completed pattern to look like a blob all around the edges, consider its silhouette carefully when you're finished. And finally, contrast the form, the texture or the colour of each area with the one beside it, and this will accentuate your pattern.
Now this design is going to be based on patterning. When we do a design, doesn't matter what it is, our container is part of our design, or our base, or whatever we use, and we need to repeat the look or the feel or the texture or whatever it is of our container. In this case it's all vine going here, there and everywhere. It's natural vine. I didn't do it, but that's the way it is. So this is a enlarged replica of that sort of thing, if I can put it that way. It's a big container. It's not heavy looking simply because it's holey, but it is visually large. I could have gone away up here, but I was mindful that it'd be better if I didn't go too high. I've tied on these, and they're not as easy as one thinks to tie on, but anyway, hopefully the tying will be hidden. And I have a cage wired in there, a small cage, a little bit of fibre to hide it a bit on the end where I know probably nothing will be poking into it. The fibre is obviously plant material, but in this instance it wouldn't count as another plant material because it'll be probably unseen. Now, when you've got a holey container, as in holes, use them. As I said, the very first design with the skeletonized punga, wood and skeletonized punga and lots of other things, have all these spiky crevices and slits and things. Use them. Saves using wire, and it gives a much better look if it flows as in going through it. It helps to, by doing that, it helps to meld your container or plant material, whatever else you're using. Everything intertwined or overlapping gently is much nicer than a harsh definition all coming from one spot. They're very harsh to look at sometimes, the likes of sunflowers and some other flowers. Now, we've got a big basket. We could do with some big leaves. Now this is Ligularia. Grandis, I think it is. Grand meaning large. Perhaps not the best keeping leaf, but if you get them mature and keep them well watered, it should be all right. I have used them before.
Out of your garden, Betty?
Yes, very easy to grow, very, but it likes plenty of water. Look at the power of that. Shiny, large. I'm very fond of our native phormiums. I have probably at least a dozen in my garden. They don't get overrun because they get picked so much. But I do a little bit of weaving. I'm well known for using our flax. Here again, if you've got these holes, use them. I'm going to attempt to thread this through. First time lucky that time. I feel it needs that other sunflower. There's a lot of power in that green. Those ends are just another little interest. because I think it adds to it.
All the area a design takes up is its space. It is positive, which is the solid parts, and it is negative, which are the voids, the gaps, the airy spaces in between. Both are equally important as you place your plant material. Space. It can be boundless as it is and have no end in a design if your line materials don't touch at the end, making a design lighter and bigger. Adding points to the ends makes a design appear heavier. Utilising the area around a container changes the negative space and balance. Put your hands up onto the screen and hide those floating pieces at the bottom, and you will see it's completely changed the design's look. These flax blades curve back and enclose space completely. This also adds weight, but not as much as the solid mass you can see in the middle. The more space is enclosed, the more visual weight it adds to your design, and this you've got to be aware of when you're designing and thinking space. And now combine them all: space, line, form, texture, colour and pattern with this last design.
Space. Now, there's no end of space in this. Now, this is a bungalow palm seed head. When all the berries are gone, it's dried up, and a few months later it will actually shrivel up all black and drop off the tree. So, you know, it has several of these each year. Some of them are nicer than others. It depends how much wind at the time, how the flowers, whether they get tangled up in something or whether they all get blown one way or whatever. That's what creates the shape.
I could lift that off. It's just sitting over the top of that pot. I felt it looked good on the natural pottery container. I sat it there for a day or two and looked at it, but anyway. So that's what it is. But it needed some shine, and it needs just one or two things, but not a lot. Now I have these balls, which I made myself in fabric and beads, and they were just the thing I felt to bring some life to it.
So they're polystyrene balls.
Yes, no sewing, no gluing. Very easy to do.
And so how did the fabric stay on?
You pin it with pins, cover it with pins to keep it all your pieces on. Start with like pins with heads on is best. You know, just odd shapes. And the same thing comes into it: texture, shine, all that sort of thing. And then you wind it with fine coloured wire. Wind it well and tight, and then you twist beads onto a wire, whatever you fancy, and then finally wind that around to give it a bit of sparkle. Like everything, you do one and you find out what's not working, but it's really easy. So no sewing, no gluing. Seed head rather, I sat over the top of there, and it didn't take much to get it right, as in positioning. If you sat it on the front and it all came forward, the moment you put anything else in, you'd get this effect. You know, it's going to fall over, whether it does or not. It's not a good look. So you just find its good point of balance, where it sits well, and that also gives you some depth. And then we've got this added interesting bit here. It doesn't quite touch the ground, and I think that's stunning. Look at the space. The spaces, yet we've got these solid balls in here, but lots of space. There's a cage at the back. My cage is not tied to the pot, it's tied to the seed head. This is Guardsman, by the way, and I think it's one of the nicest. Tricolour that I used on the first diagonal is the most useful. Yellow Wave would be next, and this Guardsman, it never has a leaf that reverts to plain. It's just always nice. If you want to know, you can rub it on the corners like the Maori ladies do when they're weaving. Now I've got a lovely what would you call it, piece where the seed head is drawing the trunk here. So I don't want to hide that, of course, so I've got to go over it or under it.
I'm very fond of flax, either as a garden subject or floral art or any art medium. I want this to be relatively straight. It takes such a big amount of room to turn it around. Lots of plant material hasn't got much give, and sometimes if you don't go with it, go with the flow of how it wants to be, you're fighting a losing battle.
Now I used these leaves instead of big solid leaves because I thought they help keep it to the light, which is part of what I'm trying to achieve here. So
So I always use my flax inside out. It rolls and bends far better. It's not the best thing to be stapling. We can use wire, but in this times important, why not use a stapler? If you use it discreetly and you're able to place it that it's not really seen, it's always wise to have two because one is not very strong. Now remember, I roll my flax up inside out. I oil it, lightly oil it. It gives it a sheen. Quite often the colour is much nicer. Often the colour on the outside, inside that you roll outside, is much nicer.
What do you oil it with? Obviously oil, but any particular sort of oil?
CA polishing oil. It's probably what I had the first time I ever did one, and I've used it ever since.
Which is used for polishing furniture?
Look, vegetable oil will do, olive oil will do. The only thing is olive oil is very greasy, very, very greasy. But even milk, I've never used milk, but they say milk's all right. Really don't. Yeah. Oh.